Long ago is it since a picture like this would have been either abhorred or ridiculed. But today, the education of small children in methods of self-preservation is recognized as a humane proceeding.
U.S. citizen returning to the United States in the previous 14 days will be subject to up to 14 days of mandatory quarantine.
The Quarantine Call-In Show with Laura Grant, Timothy Lovett, Kim DeShields, Lauren Kahane, and our special guest, Phillip Anthony. Welcome. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
We're here again. We're back. And what a lovely day it is. And I'm so excited because tonight's guest is, like I just said, Phillip Anthony, who had a rip-roaring show with y'all last Saturday, right?
Yeah, we had a good.
Right,
He killed it
in person for once.
Yeah. He killed it. He killed it.
Killed it. How was it? What was the show like? I know sorry, I wasn't there, but I know it was a beautiful show and that it was selling out because I was getting the phone calls about the table.
It was a really excellent turnout. It was great. And I don't think we necessarily knew what to expect because it's outside and that's different. It feels different. But Phillip stepped right in there, knocked it out the park. It was great. Like no time had passed. It was great.
And it was a big concern. Like I think we all felt the same way as comedians. We love what we do and we were excited to go do it. But just as I was parking the car, I'm like, can I still be funny? Like I haven't done this in like 4 months.
Oh wow.
What do I do? Am I gonna remember all my jokes? And then, just before I went up, I said, you know what? I'm not even gonna worry about what to say. I'm just gonna worry about having fun and delivering fun. And there's a ton of stuff I left out, but nobody knows my regular material like you guys do, but I mean, the audience don't. So I just, I tried new stuff. I went with old stuff and I just had fun, and that was it.
And they told us we couldn't swear or anything. So that was an added extra, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, really? They said you couldn't swear outside?
Right.
We couldn't say the F word. Like we couldn't, so you had to really monitor yourself. So that was uncomfortable.
Well, it had to be
Yeah.
PG-13. Like we could say like soft swear words, but
Right. And not that that's a problem, but I didn't get that news until the day of. Apparently, I missed the text, the inbox. So Dan Rivera texted me. He says, "How do you feel about this whole PG-13 thing?" I'm like, "What PG-13 thing?" He sends me a screenshot. Now I got to go into my messenger, and I'm like, "Oh, he did send this last night at like 9:48 last night." So I'm like, "Oh wow, okay, how strict is this?" So as if my nerves weren't bad enough, I was like, okay, but we just had fun, and I kind of addressed that as soon as I went out,
Like, what were they gonna do? Get a big net and pull you out? Like,
we don't know. Straight out the gate.
No, John would have shut it down. He would have just unplugged everything. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So it was just a matter of which comedian is sending everyone else home early.
oh,
And it was me out the gate. I was
It
like,
was the first one.
Yeah, it was bony.
I was like, fuck Tim. And I went, oh.
always getting the whole class in trouble. Always.
Always.
And you can't do that. You can't do that because then Artie was like, "What? I'm saying 7 F words."
Right.
Like, oh man.
Right.
But I guess y'all were still funny.
It was fun.
It was a lot
It was
of
really fun.
Everybody did well. It was a great show. It was a
Can't
lot
wait
of
for the
fun.
next one, right? Can't wait.
You coming, Laura? You coming to our show?
I'm gonna have to get a gas mask and a big spacesuit, but maybe.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. It was properly spaced, and that was the thing. Like the thing about that show, I trusted John, who's the owner of JJ's Tavern. He does this thing. He's always very professional and always thinking of ways to just improve. And like I said, it was great. So everybody was already distant, 6 foot apart or whatever, and he was like, we got to sell tables, we can't sell individual seats. It was us that came in and was like, listen, if we got to sell tables, so if you don't buy a full table, you will be sitting with somebody. And
I'm not worried. Go ahead, Phillip. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's how it worked out. Like, everyone that was sitting together came in groups.
Right.
So
there were a couple people that I gave them chairs, and I was just like, okay, you can sit in the middle of this walkway alone And one of them, there were two of them. One of them found a group, and he was like a friend of the owner that I was like, you seem familiar. Do you come to our shows a lot? And he's like a friend of the owner who I always like try to charge and always forget who he is. So he paid, so good. And then the other guy, I don't know if he ever did find friends, but I think he enjoyed the show.
No, he was sitting by himself.
Thank you.
He was having a good time, so it didn't even matter. He was just out the house, you know.
That's my
Yeah,
default. You know, I'm not worried about JJ's. I'm worried about myself because I just want to go and hug everybody. You know, I can't stay away, and so that's kind of for your protection. I stay home. You know.
Well, people
Yeah.
elbowed. They did one of these things.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
We were doing elbows,
I
kid
love
and
being able to
play.
get out of social hugs. I like elbowed somebody away from me with a thank you.
She would have come at me like this. Yeah, get away.
This is great for the introvert, for the
Yeah, you guys are loving it right now. All these
Not
introverts like,
me.
I don't have to go outside. Oh my God, awesome. I can
True.
work from home.
True. So Philip, I'm sorry, Kim, you were gonna say something.
Well, I saw that laugh in the background. I'm looking at his digs. You got a laugh up on the wall. That's very nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome. It's kind of a prompt for the audience.
I found that I forgot where, maybe a tag sale or something like that, or some store, and I thought it was dope, so I had to get it.
Awesome.
It's different things. Like the second one is the Eiffel Tower. The L is like a part of a frame.
Oh
You
wow.
know, so they're all like the H is like a metal iron fence. So they just took all these objects and made like letters out of them and then put it on the canvas. So.
Very nice. All right, enough about that. Anyway, I
Oh,
want to.
it's from-
Sorry.
Thanks, J Love. She just said it's J Love. Who's J
Yo,
Love?
That's
It's from
hilarious.
Michaels.
It's
probably is from
glowing.
Michaels.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
I'm sorry, Philip. Now we know where you
Who
shop.
said, wait, but who is J Love? Because I'm not ashamed to say I go to Michaels. My wife goes, she loves Michaels. I'm there all the time. I just forget where I get it from. I wasn't trying to lie.
He said a tag sale.
Tag sale.
Tag
Tag sale at Michael's. I just want to shout out to Betty Pascuzzi and Kevin Sharp, who are on the show on Facebook Live watching us right now. Hi, guys. But getting back to you, Philip, I wanted, you know, you're such an interesting person and you have been through a lot of things, and I wanted to get to your story because a lot of people know you're a great comedian. Some people know you're a great singer also, but you're just a phenomenal person. And so is it okay for me to start asking you personal questions?
Yeah, as long as J Love doesn't start fact checking me, we're good.
You can, because she's the Snopes of the Quarantine Call-In show. So can you tell us where you come from? Where did you start your life? Where's that?
Originally the Bronx, New York. Lived in the Bronx pretty much all my life. And, you know, a little bit of time in Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens. I moved around a lot. But the majority of my life was in the Bronx, New York. And I didn't leave the Bronx until I was 35 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was up here to Mass. So it was funny when I came out here and met a lot of people from New York. I'm like, oh my God, really? How long you been here? Like I moved here when I was 2 months old. Like, you're not from New York.
You're
bro.
not from New York.
That's not from New York. You're still drinking Similac. You're not from New York. But,
Tell me about the New York story, because if people aren't born there and they don't grow up there, they don't really know the deal. But it's a different kind of place to grow up, right? The Bronx?
Yeah, it's different. When I moved out to Mass, I felt like we had 28 hours a day. Like it was just, it was a big slowdown. I was like, wow. Because in New York, everything's 120 miles an hour all the time. You're moving nonstop. I mean, it can drain you real quick, you know. So I was used to that. So when I came over here, I was like, wow. Like I felt relaxed, you know. But growing up in New York, I mean, it was, you know, typical broken family. I was always a new kid in everywhere because my mom moved every year. She was half Puerto Rican, half Gypsy. So we moved every year. So I was always a new kid in class, always getting into fights, all that stuff. So, you know.
No, you and I were talking about this and saying, like, you were telling me this story about you're 9 years old and you got your 1-year-old brother.
Well, that was the contrast of how I was raised. Like, so at 7 years old, we lived on a dead end street, and the grocery store's right across the street. But my mom would not let me cross the street, so I literally have to walk all the way to the end of the street to go around and come back just to go to the store. To cross the street and then come back the same way. And, you know, I get it. You know, I'm 7 years old. She's sending me out on my own. She doesn't want me crossing the street. So the floor is lava, right? See, whatever it is, don't cross the street.
Floor
The
is
street is
lava.
lava. The street is lava. You'll get burned. So, but fast forward 2 years. Now I'm 9 years old. We live somewhere totally different. And I have a 1-year-old brother. And my mom's like, okay, now you got to get on the train with him and take the 4 train down to Brooklyn Bridge in Manhattan, switch for the J train, take that to Myrtle Avenue, get off of Myrtle Avenue, take the M train 1 stop to Central Avenue, and then drop your brother off at his dad's house. Call me when you get there.
Oh my God.
I can't even do that as an adult. Like,
I know.
But I mean, this was every weekend. Like
Oh my
every
God.
weekend. My brother, I had to take him to his dad's house. So my mom didn't want to take the trip. She worked nights. She worked from Thursday through the weekend. She worked as a bartender. So she tended bars. So she was out late. So for her to get my brother, you know, over there early enough, she'd have to wake up. You know, so she didn't want to. So I had to do it. And you know, I was telling Laura, like, yeah, it's crazy because I think now, like, today my mom would be in jail and I would be like in the system, right? And people, I think, like, wow, like she was so messed up. But not once in every one of those trips did anyone throughout New York City ever stop me and go, hey, where's your mom? Like, you know what I mean? So it was just, society was cool with that. They were totally all right with that. They'd see the 2 little kids walking the train by themselves, and like, whatever, and just keep going. So it was just it was a different time.
And that was like the
Different
80s,
time.
right? That's like the
Yeah.
70s, 80s. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't
Early
like,
80s.
you know, Times Square wasn't like it is now. Times
Times
you know?
Square, yes. Yeah, I got my
I
first
think,
fake
Philip,
ID in
I
Times
think
Square.
I think your mom was fine. Okay, I think she's a good mom because I did some wild ass shit. Okay, so I'm gonna let you know that was okay. All right,
You
that
gonna
was
give
fine.
her a pass? You gonna give her a pass on that one?
For sure, because I left my daughter home alone, so I'm gonna give her a pass.
Yeah.
Gave
But you
her
know
a
what?
key.
I believe that the way I was raised made me strong. I was able to handle a lot of things that I went through that I think that, you know, other people may not have been able to handle as well. You know, and growing up where I did, a lot of the people that I grew up with or knew, they turned out to be those statistics where they were either involved in drugs by doing, selling them, you know, getting locked up, getting shot, getting killed, all that stuff. And I was able to, you know, maneuver through all of that and not fall into those cracks. You know, even though I was very knowledgeable about everything going on, it just wasn't something that I was into.
It seems like you have a guiding purpose because I mean, you've always sort of been able to get yourself through things. And so, you know, we talked about how you were already on your own at 15.
Yes.
And I mean, that's not easy.
Yeah. It was a weird thing. It was like I knew I had to go. Like we had a conversation, you know, and we talked about what kind of led up to that. And I knew I had to go. And then, you know, it was just one of those big things. And, you know, my mom was like, well, if you don't like it, get the F out. And I'm like, I don't like it. You know, so I just, peace. And I left, you know, and I was already used to being out there. So surviving wasn't a hard thing for me to do. You know, I was able to, I mean, there were nights where I slept in the train or in the street or in the building. And I remember one night, my brother and I, we were out, and we had to choose between a warm building and a cold building to sleep in. The warm building, the problem with the warm building is that it had an automatic elevator, and the elevator would just keep going all night, and it would stop on every floor, and the bell would ring, and then when it would close, it would be so you really couldn't sleep. It's just like bing, and bing all night. So we're like, you know what? Let's go over there and fucking freeze for the night. And then we went, and we slept in the street, and we slept in, you know, we had to find places to make it through the night. And our friends never even knew. Like we would hang out with friends, like, you know, can we crash tonight? And they're like, yeah, we would crash. And and they just thought we were just hanging out as friends. They didn't realize that was where I was gonna put my head tonight. This is where I was gonna sleep warm tonight, you know, because I find you guys said I could stay over. nobody knew because we never liked that. We never asked for help. We never did any of that. We just, we just survived.
Amazing. Tell me about when you first realized you were funny.
So I've always been the one I love making people laugh, always. And there's a memory I don't really have. I just remember my mom telling me and my brothers telling me how. So when I was a year old, my brother, who's 11 months older than me, so he was 2, he had walking pneumonia. And I guess I've always been that kind of person to try and make someone feel better or make them laugh or make them happy. And he's sick. So he's at the window still and he's like, sick or whatever. I decided to try and cheer him up. And I end up sitting on the window and he ends up pushing me out the window. And, again, survival. I was just lucky again. I lived on the first floor.
Oh my God.
It was a 6-story building, but I lived on the first floor. Lucky. Also the superintendent, where I fell out the back window, he had a really vicious dog. He decided to take his dog with him that day. So the dog wasn't outside. My mom's like, "Where's your brother at?" She hears me crying. She has to go out the window and grab me. But that's always been in my nature. But growing up the way I did, like I said, I used to fight a lot. I used to hold things in, and I used to fight all the time. And that was my explosion. If you were there when that bomb was ready to go off, you were getting it, whoever it was. And I used to get into fights all the time in school, in the streets. And, when I was 13, I got into it with my mom and my brothers, and there was no outlet. She wouldn't let me leave. And it was a big, big fight over nothing really, but it was a big, big fight. And she decided to tell me, "You can't go anywhere." And I was done. And I was at that explosive point. So I went to the bathroom and I went through the medicine cabinet and I popped a bunch of pills. And I went back to my room and I didn't feel anything. Like 5-10 minutes, I went back to the bathroom and I popped a bunch of more pills. And I was like, this is it. This is it. I'm done. And then my mom goes and she's like, "Watch your little brother. I'm going shopping." She takes my older brother with her. So now I'm like, holy shit. I was like, "Take him with you. Like, I don't want him to see what's going to happen." And so I was laying on her bed and my little brother was sitting there and she says, "Lock the door." And she walked out and slammed the door. And I'm like, okay. When I stood up, I felt like my head was going to hit the ceiling. I was in the air. And when my foot went to hit the ground to take that first step, I landed like a pile of bricks. And then, I'm 13, so my brother's 5. And he looked at me with his face. He's like, "What happened?" And I sort of fear. And I was like, oh, shit. So I called the ambulance on myself because I didn't want him to see me die in front of him. And, ended up going to the hospital, doing all that stuff. And my mom came home. My little brother's in the back of a police car in the rain. She's like, holy shit, And it was from that point on that I was like, I got to stop taking shit so serious. And I learned to find humor in everything I could find. You know what I mean? And even the worst situations, there's something funny out of that. And when I started to do that, I was living a much happier life. And I was fighting less. And, and I just wanted to keep doing that. I didn't realize that it was comedy. I just realized, like, I just need to laugh at everything, and that's why I say laughter is life, because I believe laughter saved my life. And that's everybody, keep laughing. You got to keep laughing. If you don't laugh, life's going to fuck you up, So I think that's when I really realized, like, I had to use my humor and, just work with that.
Phillip, I'm thank you for telling us that. That's a lot. And
yeah, I just brought the fucking room down.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here.
And Tim's like, damn, I'm not the darkest one here. Dark.
Yo, that was so heavy. Oh my God.
I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
And and that story is really meaningful because yeah, comedy does save lives, right? I also want everyone to know, I just posted it in case anyone's feeling like they're in any kind of crisis right now. There is a national crisis line at 1-800-273-TALK or 8255. You can dial 1 if you're a veteran and get immediate care.
Am I the first comedian on your show that made you put out the crisis hotline? Is that
No.
is that what just happened?
Nope, not actually.
Like, yo, we
but
need to put this shit out.
No, there was precedent. We needed that policy.
we had it
Don't-
before.
Okay.
But don't you think though that most comedians have like a dark side? Like that's, I feel like, what draws them to comedy. Like everybody has some sort of really sad past.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that
A lot of them
odds with
still
what
have it.
he's saying that laughter is life? Like, because are you saying that? Boney? Are you saying laughter is death? Like, is that your?
Uh-oh.
We don't have to make this a dark episode. We just,
I'm
Really
just curious. How'd you get on the road to that? Like, how'd you even get to that
laughter
question?
is death. Like, I've heard of dying laughing, but you just put it
Yeah.
so eloquently.
But I mean,
Thank
like,
you.
so okay, yeah, you're right. I can explain more of that. But like, she kind of there's the big duality in the story, basically, the darkness being contrasted. Like, I took that as uplifting, but I also, like, ultimately, and it kind of, as somebody who takes things really like, I feel like I like work hard to lighten up, which is, I don't know, it doesn't feel easy yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think. Okay, go ahead, Philip. What are you
No,
going to
go
say?
ahead. You go. To me, it was just a choice. I just, and a lot of things in my life are like that, choices, and so people, I used to, like, okay, people ask me if I smoke weed, right? And I mean, it's legal now in Massachusetts, but when I grew up with my brother, who was a year older than me, lived with my dad. So we didn't live together. And that is another story in itself. So my brother, who lived with me, my oldest brother, is 5 years older than me. I learned everything at the age where he learned everything. So when he was 15, learning the shit that 15-year-olds were learning, he was coming home and telling me about it. So when people started smoking weed, I had already quit. I quit smoking weed at 13 years old. So I was a 10-year-old out there going to the parties and having people come to my house because my big brother had his teenage friends over. And the joke was to get the cat high and to get me high. So I was doing all these things at such a young age. I was already going to clubs at 14 and 15. By the time I was 15, I was performing on stage at clubs. And so where people were like, thinking I'm hanging out all night and doing negative shit, I was actually getting paid to go dance for different, like, people who sang, these old clubhouse freestyle artists. So I just took a different path because I like to entertain, and that's where I went. But I did everything at such a young age. I started so young, but I never had that addictive personality. I just made a choice not to smoke weed anymore, and it was because of an experience I had. It was a funny experience. I went to a party. There was a girl at the party who I really wanted to talk to. We had all smoked before we went to the party. We're at my house smoking. We got to the party. I pulled her to the side. We're in the living room. It was a house party. We're in the living room. I pulled her into the bedroom. I remember sitting. There were 2 twin beds, and we're sitting knee to knee, like I'm trying to kick game. And the next thing I know, I just wake up, and I'm like, and I hear the music in the living room still going, so the party's still on. I go outside. She's sitting in the corner again by the window. I grab her back. We go back to the room, start talking again. I wake up again. Like, I was just passing out. I don't know what is going on, but I don't remember, like, leaning back. I just remember just like, holy. And I got up. I went out to the party. I looked at her again. She just gave me this look, and I felt so embarrassed. I left. And I walked home by myself, and I was like, I'm never smoking again. And I never smoked again. 13 years old.
Wow.
I want to say that is giving weed a very bad name, but I'm just saying.
But no, okay. So, but what we used to do is we used to do Chicago's. You remember what Chicago's were?
No.
Chicago, they call it Chicago because it's the Windy City. So everyone that came to my house brought a different bag of weed.
Oh.
And they would roll a different blunt, and we would just puff and pass.
Oh, okay.
So we smoked a lot of shit. It was,
Okay.
I don't know what, you know what I mean? It could have been something in one of them.
It
Well,
was
so
the
of course,
80s.
right.
Different
Of course
weed
you're
in the
passing out.
80s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
and that's
Okay.
the 80s. Yeah, that's when we still had seeds.
All
And-
right. Okay.
80s.
Yeah. So if I was 13 at that time, it had to be 85.
Wow, that's
1985.
so young. God.
Who were your heroes when you were young?
So I didn't even know it because I wasn't into comedy, didn't know comedy, but I've always had a huge admiration for Robin Williams. Always. That's the one celebrity when he passed, I felt that one. Like usually celebrity goes, I'm like, oh, I'm sad, but I'm like, oh, it's just that one. I felt like I lost somebody that I knew because I grew up with him. I grew up with him, Mork and Mindy, from everything he did, through even what was it? Trying to think of the special he did with Whoopi Goldberg for
Comic Relief.
Comic Relief.
Yeah.
Like I watched that over and over again. You know what I mean? So I didn't know I was into comedy. I used to go when I became old enough to get into clubs. I didn't choose to go to nightclubs because I had been going there since I was a kid. I chose to go to comedy clubs. And I would sit in the front row and put my foot on the stage at Comic Strip Live, like, pick on me. Like, I wasn't the heckler, but I was like, pick on me. I even got Chris Rock to come in at an open mic one night. He tore my ass up. And I loved it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, shit, Chris Rock is here? It was a Monday night at Comic Strip Live. Chris Rock walks in, takes the whole lineup, just walks over in there. So I want to talk some shit. Tore me up because I had my foot right on the stage. I was in the first row. But I've always loved comedy. I just never knew how to get into it.
Can you please tell us the story about how you got into it? Because that is a great story.
So I was working at Circuit City on 86th Street in Manhattan. And these two guys come in, they're looking to buy a computer, and we're talking, and I'm a sales guy, and I've always used my humor to build rapport with people, especially in sales. So I was just joking around with them, and one of them was like, dude, you funny. You should do comedy. And I was like, I would love to be a comedian. He was like, well, we're comedians. I'm a comedian. I was like, really? He was like, yeah. He says, let me give you my number. Come to see my show this weekend. You see what it's like. I was like, oh, hell yeah. It was Freddie Ricks and Kenny Williams. So I go, and that was another story in itself. Just driving from the Bronx all the way to deep in Brooklyn, where I think it was Footprints.
Oh my God.
You know the place. So look, Kim lost her camera because of that. No. So on the way over there, I lost my brakes to my car. I Flintstoned it. I'm going. I'm not stopping. I got there. So now I walk in and Freddie is hosting and he is destroying. You know how funny Freddie is. He's destroying this room. And I look around and I'm like, okay, I'm the only Puerto Rican in this room. Right? I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But I didn't notice that until he was like, all right, so you guys ready for the show? And they were like, yeah. He's like, all right, this first comedian, I met him at Circus City.
Like, what?
I was like, I hope I have some coworkers in this bitch because he didn't tell me I was going on stage. He told me to come watch the show.
Oh
and
my
he just literally threw me on the fucking stage. Didn't know what I was gonna say, didn't know anything. And I probably spent 3 minutes on stage, the longest 3 minutes of my life. I got some laughs. I got laughs as soon as I went up there because the DJ played 50 Cent in the club as I was walking up. And Freddie left the mic all the way up. So now I walk up to the stage and I put the mic right here, like the mic's down. I'm looking up at it. I'm looking at Freddie. I'm looking at the DJ, and everybody's hearing, "Go Shorty, it's your birthday." And I was like, so I fumbled with the mic, and I was like, "Fuck you, Freddie. You knew I was coming up, and you should have brought this shit down. And you, DJ, cut that fucking shit off. You a comedian too? Go Shorty, fuck you." And that was it. And everyone was laughing with me. So I took the energy and I just fucking started talking about a relationship I just ended. And it was probably 3 minutes, but it was the longest 3 minutes of my life, and I got the laughs, and I was like, wow.
Say, Footprints is the hardest room in New York City. The hardest.
That was my first.
Didn't even know he was going to be up there.
That room kills careers. Okay, let me just say. Wow. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
It's my first room ever. That's crazy.
And those two are so great. Freddie and Kenny are like comedians.
Geniuses.
Like you'll love to see them.
Geniuses, yeah. So I was the only thing I just didn't get to. I didn't get to shadow them. I didn't know what next. I didn't know about open mics. I didn't know about grinding it out, and I wish I did, because I was living in Manhattan at that time.
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit! Like, how would I was working around the corner from Comic Strip Live. 86th Street, Comic Strip. I'm between 2nd and 3rd. Comic Strip is on 2nd Avenue. I was right there. So like, I had all this at my and I didn't know, and it did. So I remember, like, after I did like maybe 5 shows with Freddie, because I would go to his shows and he would put me on. We walked out. It was a place in Astoria, Queens, and we walked out, and it was a rough show. It was me. It was Freddie. It was my Cool Bubba Ice, and the crowd was so tough because we had a whole group of corrections officers from Rikers that were there to celebrate a birthday party. They were not there for comedy. So they were being disruptive the whole night. Like, Freddie got out of here. I get out of character to shut them up. I mean, you really couldn't, even Cool Bubba Ice couldn't bring them in. And these are veteran guys, and these guys. So I went up and I was speedballing, but I focused on 4 tables that were in front. I dealt directly with them, and I got off stage. And that night when I left, Freddie gave me $60. And I was like, "What's this?" He was like, "You're a paid comedian now. Don't stop doing comedy."
That's incredible.
The first thing I did was I stopped doing comedy.
So this is the Quarantine Call-In Show, powered by Zoom and brought to you by Comedy as a Weapon. It's now time to open up the room and have all of you ask Philip the questions that you want to ask him or speak with him. So feel free to do so. Just when you're not speaking, please mute your mics. Thanks. Okay.
I just want to say Freddie is so awesome, and that is he's like the perfect mentor to have. So that was an awesome introduction into comedy. I saw Freddie kill at a funeral.
Oh,
and then when I tell you he murdered, I said, if I die before you, please host my funeral, because oh my God, like he just, at Jimmy Mac's funeral, murdered.
Was it tasteful?
It was, Lauren, let me just say, it was incredible because he knew the deceased so well, and the deceased was a comedian as well. And it was Jimmy Mac, Uncle Jimmy Mac, and he was the one who died in the auto accident with Artie Fuqua and Tracy Moore. And Jimmy Mac was cool. He was the first one to ever put money in my pocket, and but Freddie was like, I don't know what you call it, the host of the funeral or the MC.
Yeah.
When I tell you, I didn't even know that you could kill at a funeral. I didn't even know that. Like, I didn't know that was even possible.
That's a thing. That's a thing.
Yeah, like but that's how skilled he is as a comic, and that he can, like, he knew his audience. Like, that's really what comedy is all about, knowing your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And he destroyed. Like, I just was like, oh my God.
I always give him credit for being the first one to give me a taste of what comedy was. I just wish I would have like really had him mentor me more. Again, I didn't know, and I was still doing music, and that was like there for me. My roommate was my producer, and we used to go to do all these shows all the time, and so I just got back into that, and I didn't follow up on the comedy till years later when I hooked up with Artie Rod right here in Springfield. That was it.
And
so
thank God you ended up here, man.
Yeah. Listen, I found my 2 loves in Springfield, comedy and my wife. So I talk shit about Springfield all the time, but
sweet.
I owe a lot to Springfield.
So
So-
is the difference between audiences here in New York? Speaking of knowing your audience.
New York is not as forgiving as a lot of the audiences out here. You know, and you know, they're gonna let you know, you know, because they see a lot of it. Remember, comedy is so saturated out there. There's a million comedians in New York, you know, and everywhere you go, like somebody knows a comedian, you know. So when you tell someone you're a comedian out here, like, oh my God, where can I see you? You tell somebody in New York, I'm a comedian. Yeah, whatever. Like, you know, because so when you go to the clubs, like comedy clubs are one thing. When you go to these private shows, like Footprints and, you know, like those kind of shows that are run by comedians, and it's a different. You gotta go and bring your shit. You have to bring it. If you don't bring it, and that's what makes you strong. That's what makes you walk into, you know, any room and be able to relate to the crowd. Even the comedy club. I remember I did a show at Stand Up New York, and like 40 people in the crowd were from London. And that's New York. You're gonna see people from all over the world. It's gonna be the most diverse room. And I'm like, do they even know what a Puerto Rican is? Like, what am I gonna say to these people? And so I just stuck to my material. I delivered me. Instead of delivering the jokes, I delivered me. And everything was landing. And that's it. I feel like if you get the audience to like you right away, they're gonna take the ride with you the whole way, as long as you're on that stage.
Do you think that okay, a lot of people want to be comedians, but do you think that there's do you need a little bit of natural ability, or you know what I mean, like, or can you just do it? Can you become a comedian from nothing?
There's so many elements, you know, being able to speak in front of people, being able to read your audience, because you can be funny doing in the same room all the time, and then you go somewhere else and you're just trying to do what you do over there, and you don't realize that you have to read that room, and you go and you're humbled. There's a reality check. You're like, well, what happened? You know, why aren't they laughing? I've heard a comedian, I think we all know him, and he did one of Marshall's rooms, and he was like, these jokes kill at the Funny Bone. And we died. What? Like, how are you gonna tell me this joke kills at another place? Like, if it just wasn't funny tonight. Shut up. But you know, it was. You gotta think inside of him. He was like, why isn't this working? Because you know, you can be the same, but you have to know who you're talking to. You don't talk to everyone the same. Even if you say the same words, you deliver them so that people can understand. And that's I think the biggest key of being a comedian is knowing your audience and talking to those people, because it's a form of hypnotism. It's a form of taking this whole group of people, and for whatever time you're on stage, taking away from their life and whatever issues they may have and whatever bills they haven't paid, whatever argument they just had, wiping that shit out of their head and just bringing them a reason to laugh. You know, with you, at you, for you, whatever it is. And that's what it's about, you know? So you have to really, it's a lot of work. Some people get lucky and just go out there and they do it, but will they be consistent? No, it's gotta be more. It's a learning process. It's a natural, you know, it's a natural thing inside. You have to be a comedian. That's what I think.
So how do you do your writing? How are you coming up with your jokes?
I don't write. I don't write. I talk about experiences. Sometimes I'll embellish. You know, we've all been, you know, with our friends hanging out and something happens and you go, oh man, it would have been funny if. Now my joke is that if, because I'm creating that. I'm like, you know what, that would have been funny. You know, you see somebody almost fall, well, it would have been funny if they bust their ass. So I'm gonna write this like when I tell it, they bust their ass. So whatever, that's my example of how I write. Like I just write like that, and my material is like a story. It starts, and everything kind of goes into the next. So I make it like a conversation, but that's my style. Everybody writes different. Everybody goes on stage and does different things. People like when I first met Tim, he was the pun master, and I hated it.
I still love a good pun. Don't estimate
Oh my
the
God.
intelligence
But I was
of a
like,
good
what
pun.
who is this guy? But but that was him, and he people adored him for it because he's a likable person no matter what. So they'll sit there and they'll enjoy his puns because they already enjoy his personality. As soon as he gets on stage, you look at him and he starts to talk, and you do this, and you like the guy. And that's why.
It's the
You know what I mean?
jackets.
Yeah. So that's what everybody writes different. So I tell people like, oh, how do I write a joke? Don't write a joke. You're not gonna write anything new. Knock jokes, like that's stupid. So write what you experience. Two things are gonna happen. You're gonna write something original, and you're gonna be believable when you get on stage. Because it's genuine. You lived it. It was something that you went through. And you know what? You're going to be surprised at how many people in that audience have probably gone through some shit like that too.
We hate those puns. I just want to be clear about that. We're so angry at those puns.
You know what?
I gotta tell you. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, I can't. I want to stop writing them, but I just can't.
It's a disease. I know.
It's a compulsion.
Listen, so Tim has taken a total different direction in his comedy, and I remember the first time I had seen him in a long time. And he remembers I walked up to him and I was like, yo, that was the night you guys came to Laughing Latinos Comedy, and I was like, yo, you guys want to go up? And I put you guys both up, and you guys did guest spots. But when I get guest spots and they kill in my room, that's not a free spot. I paid. So I put money in their pocket that night because I was like, yo, not only did they kill, I knew Kim would always kill, but it was the first time I seen Tim he didn't do any puns. He went up there, did some fucking material, and he did stuff that I was like, why the fuck did he like that? And I was like, oh, and I was like, and I told him, I don't know if it was the next day, but I was like, yo, dude, I just got to tell you that the direction you're going in now, bro, is dope. You found yourself. Keep doing that.
I was heated because he killed right in front of me. I was like, don't you ever. I was like,
he
would have worked that hard. Stop it.
Yeah, he did. He destroyed that room. I was like, oh, that was dope. I was so happy. You can see, like, this is how happy I was. I was like, wow. So that brought me a lot of joy, and I'd love to share that. I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're doing, but just keep doing that, bro, because it's dope.
Well, this is the thing, like with the puns and everything, I write for me. I don't try to take that anywhere. That's just for me. It's fun for me. It's fun for around here. But I just like writing in different voices. You know what I mean? I love, I love being campy and and corny and things. I think there's a place for that in comedy.
No, there's not. Not comedy.
No, there is though.
There's no place for corny in comedy.
But I'm saying
the opposite.
No, but there is. There's a place for that. Or like dumb shows like Rick and Morty wouldn't exist and all that and be loved and so I think but
Philip disagrees clearly.
What I do want to say, right? That's why I would never do that on his show. Like when he want the stuff that I bring is a lot different.
Black comedy writing matters. I'm just saying.
But what I do want to say though about Laughing Latino. I mean, you always put on a quality show. And I like that. Like I look at everybody's shows. Like if Kim would tell you, I'm studying the map. I'm studying everybody's shows, their event pages, who they got on their show. I'll go sit in the show just to watch how it's performed. Like to find comedians. I never put anybody on my show I never seen or worked with before, or unless Kim directly is like, this person is funny. I trust Kim. But, I like that. I like the fact that, you're doing quality shows. You put a lot of thought into it and you care about your audience. And I always respect it and admired that, so I just want to tell you that because, I mean,
thank you. I do it for so many reasons. Yeah, thank you. I do it for the audience, but I do it for comedians too. Mm-hmm. Because if I always do things like when I do shows and stuff like that, I think about the person who's coming to a comedy show for the first time.
Okay.
if this is their first experience in comedy and it sucks, their impression of stand-up live stand-up comedy is going to be, it sucks. And so I'm always cognizant of that. I want everyone to have a good time, and the comedians too. Like I want, people say, I've heard promoters go, oh, but these comedians don't even promote the show. Like that's not their job. If you're promoting the show, you're putting the show together, that's your job. I never ask any comedian, hey, yo, why are you not sharing it? If you share it, great, but you don't have to. It's my job to bring you the audience, and it's my job to bring the audience the funny comedians. That's it. I'm gonna do everything I can to make those two things happen, and make it a good show. Laughing Latinos was just something that came about because when I moved to Mass, I went to 3 Latino comedy shows. One was from A.O. Wash, one was Darryl Roseman, and one was Artie Rock. Okay, they each respectively threw a Latino comedy show. And when I went into the room, it was the same room I went to with all their shows. The only difference was that the comedians were Latinos. The comedians were like me. It was comedians like Carlos Gonzalez, Kenny Ortega, Corey Fernandez. Like it was these guys. So it was all English comedy, but they were Latino comedians. And there were no Latinos in the room. I was the only, like myself or the table I was with, the only Latinos. And I was like, this is Springfield. There's like 50% of this population is Latino. How are you not telling them about this show? Who's not talking to them?
Right.
So I said, when I started, I always said, if I ever start doing comedy, I'm going to start putting comedy shows together. And that's why I called it Laughing Latinos Comedy. It's not a Latino comedy show that, you're not going to go in there and hear Spanish jokes. Every now and then that you might hear one, but it's 99% English. It's not just for Latinos. It's for everybody. When you go to the white clubs and you hang out with them, and you it's like hanging out in their culture, and you're having a good time and you're laughing with them. That's your family that night, and you're hanging out. You go to the black comedy club, same thing. You're in their culture and in their house. It's like me going to Tim's house and hanging out, right? Well, Laughing Latinos is when I'm inviting Tim to my house. It's going to be the same exact experience. The only difference is he's going to smell all that fried food coming out the kitchen. You know what I mean? It's going to be rice and beans and pork. And that's what made my shows, like the Latino portion was mostly the food. I always had a different menu, and it was always Latino food. And it didn't have to be Puerto Rican. I've had Brazilian, like I've had, Colombian. I've had all kinds of different menus. But that was my way to make it as much Latino as I can, because it was going to be mostly in English. But that's what it was. It was just like, all right, now let's invite them to our party and let them hang out with us, because we always hang out with everyone else. And that's how it was born. And I always included everybody. I've had white headliners, black headliners, Latino headliners. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just about the party.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, you do a good job. Thank you, man. And the thing is this, which, I know that you can understand what I'm about to say, but you think about things down to the details, the logo, the colors, merchandising, just how you advertise and promotion. And, and like you said, I've been doing it, for a while, for some time. This ain't about me, this is about you. So I just want to say that, like, I know when I see a Laughing Latino event, I know what goes into bringing that to the stage. You know what I mean? The performance is just the last part of it. You know what I mean? Even I think that's why you're so successful with Funny for Funds. You know what I mean? Because you already gave yourself a blueprint to, how you actually work. And, I felt like I was going to be successful with Funny for Funds. Corona didn't think so.
You still will, man. It's going to happen. I just did a Funny Fun show yesterday at a baseball stadium.
Oh, okay.
Can you talk about that?
We put the stage right in front of the dugout, and then they gave us, because they could only allow maximum 250 people because of, you know, the CDC guidelines in Connecticut. So we had 250 people. But if you're standing there, and there's some pictures online on my Facebook page, you'll see it looks like it was empty because they literally had, okay, you're a group, you sit here. Now, no one can sit next to you for 6 rows or 6 seats.
Mm.
So you had 6 people, 6 rows behind you empty, or 5 at least, and then 5 seats on either side empty. So it was just really scattered. And to put 250 people in that distance, can you imagine the amount of seats they had to take? So we had 5 sections, section 3 to section 8. And the Puerto Ricans were in section 8. No, I'm just kidding.
See, I can respect that.
That was bad.
That was such a.
I can respect that.
I did that for Tim.
Nice.
So you know, it was hard. I was like, am I gonna feel the energy from the crowd? You know, you think that, like, am I gonna feel this energy? Like, am I gonna hear the laughs? Like, are they gonna hear me? Like, it was so many different things. Like, just when we went to your show, like, holy shit, this is so different. But I prefer that to the virtual shows. You know, this is a format that I like for any virtual comedy, where we're just talking and we'll have a conversation. But to sit here and do material, I can't see myself doing that. And a lot of comedians have done it. Some comedians say they're doing it and loving it. And I can't. I don't see it yet. I haven't done it because I keep turning those down. But you know, it ended up working out. They raised almost $7,000 yesterday after expenses.
Oh, nice.
You know, and it was for Wings of Freedom animal rescue.
That's great.
So it was really great. We had 3 of the dogs that they rescued at the park with us.
Oh.
You know, it was a great event. So Funny for Fun is still going. We just have to find, ways to do it now. So these same people who wanted to do shows with you before, maybe they're gonna have to look at, saying, hey, JJ's Tavern, can we use your lot? Can we do the tent? Can we do it outside? And then, instead of getting 200 people, you may have to limit it to 100 and really arrange the seating. But since it's their event, most of those people are friends and family. Maybe they can sit a little closer together than, a bunch of strangers. So it's just about modifying it until we get back to, if we ever get back to normal, but I'm not giving up. Funny Fun, I've had so much fun with it. It put me in a position where if I wasn't working on a weekend, it's because I chose not to. And that's where I want to be in comedy. I don't have to be making millions, but if I can work every weekend and make enough money that I can pay my mortgage and take care of my family, I'm a successful comedian. I don't give a shit, So, I'm not giving up on that.
You're already a success, man.
Absolutely. The cool thing about Funny for Funds is that it's for funds, and so you're always raising money for a cause, which feels good too, right?
Yeah. You're putting those two things together: the love of making people laugh and the love of helping people. Because comedians, that's what we have that inside of us. We always want to help people, and most of us are broke, so the most we can give you is something to laugh at, right? So if we can do a fundraiser and put some money in your pocket that that helps you with something that's important to you, then it's twice as good.
And
So
I love doing Funny for Funds. I just want to say.
I know we haven't scratched the surface in terms of your life story, but can we talk about what your ultimate plan is? Because I know there's a big thing that you're trying to get going.
So lately I've been really playing with the idea of doing a one-man show. And I want to mix it up, kind of like what John Leguizamo did and he talked about his life. And I want to kind of mix it with what Cedric the Entertainer did when he did his one-man show, where he included dancing and music and it was just a mix of everything. And I think that will really, that encompasses a lot. People don't know. I started at 15 years old. I didn't start in the industry as a comedian. I started dancing. I was a dancer. I used to dance for Say No to Drugs tours. I used to dance for artists. I was offered tours in Brazil. That's what I did. And then, in the 90s when that type of music was it came off mainstream radio and it was kind of going underground. I was doing a lot of choreography for different groups until I ended up putting out a song myself. And the song was just a one-time thing for me. I wanted to do one song so I could have my name on a CD. That was the dream. And I did it, but the song did well. So they wanted more songs. So I did that. And I did about maybe 10 to 12 songs throughout, you know, I'll say my first release was in 97. My last release was in 2010. So those, like, you know, whatever, 13 years. Yeah, whatever time frame that was, 23 years, I think it was, I don't know. But in that time frame, that's what I was doing. I was doing it, and I did that as a hobby. I never wanted to make it big as a singer. I was like, I got an okay voice. Like, I'm not, you know, I just enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed being on stage and entertaining. And when I did the comedy, that was like stripping everything away. I didn't have the music to make the people move. I didn't have the words that they were going to sing along to. It was just the most naked and vulnerable feeling. It was me and the mic and their expectation of me being funny. The pressure is crazy, and I fucking love that pressure. And that's why I still do what I do.
So we're gonna have to hear those CDs, man. You're gonna have to send those to me.
I'm adding a few.
Laura was looking for me. She was Googling, and she kept finding this guy who sings. She kept finding videos.
I did, just so you know, I did post a couple things on the comments of our show for tonight so people can look. I hope that's okay. I put in All Out of Love, Solitario. And
that's bad. I hate that because
you don't like that one?
Well, because what he did, that DJ, he's a DJ. What he does is he plays it. He's from Chicago, I think, because he speeds everything up. So I sound like a chipmunk.
Let me delete that one. I'll delete that one.
Oh, God.
And do you have one that you like that you want me to put up there?
I think one of my favorite tracks, All Out of Love, was great. That was the first. It was a remake of Air Supply's All Out of Love.
That is.
And it did really well. So that's always one of my favorites. And one of the last recordings I did was a song called My Beautiful Lady.
Okay.
And I think that was probably one of the best productions that I was.
I'm going to put it up. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Usually what we like to do is post some of your stuff on the comments so people can check you out. So I do have some of your YouTube videos of comedy. But if there's something you'd like to plug, or a Patreon account or a Cash App or PayPal, please tell us so we can post that for you.
Oh, well, you know, I mean, you guys gonna send me money. As you send, just $, keep laughing. Just send, you know. No, I mean, you know, everybody can find me at any social media. Just look up Laughing Latino. You can go to laughinglatinos.com, laughinglatinoscomedy.com, or Keep Laughing ENT, which is keeplaughing.entertainment.com. Those are all gonna take you to the same place. You know,
you have masks too, right?
Huh?
Yeah,
I have the Keep Laughing mask. You go there, I have the catalog on the website with, you know, T-shirts and stuff that I'm selling. I got to update the masks on there. But you know, right now we just want to tell everybody, like, don't give up on live comedy. You know, we know how much you need us. You guys, you have to know how much we need you. You know,
Amen.
We need you too. So, you know, just if you have an opportunity and you know, like the fundraisers that you guys wanted to do, talk to us. I'll work with you and figure out how we can make this happen as soon as possible. You know, I mean, if I have to go and get an FM transmitter and have everyone sit in their cars and we'll do a drive-in style, then we'll do that. You know, it's only $100 for the FM transmitter, and everyone will hear you clearly in the cars. There's a lot of things we can do to modify, but it's about us delivering the laughs to you, the laughter that you need, and that's feeding it's feeding my soul. I don't know about you guys. When people are laughing in that room, my soul gets so full, and I need that too. I missed that. These 4 months have been crazy,
right?
Crazy. You know, the best things happen in 4 months is just me and my wife and us getting our deck done in the backyard, and that's looking awesome. And you know, but I miss the comedy. I miss the stage. I miss the people. You know, even we're working from home. I miss meeting different people every day, and that's not happening anymore. So you need to get back out there. What you guys did, that was my first show since March. So I love you guys for that. I've loved you before that, so I thank you guys so much for that. Rent the drive-in in Northfield.
I know J Love has a lot of comments. Who's J Love? Please tell me who that is.
That's Joseph Lovett.
Joseph Lovett.
Joseph Lovett and Carmen Rivera.
Rivera.
Husband.
Okay.
Oh, they your family?
A regular. No relation.
Oh, here he is. See him? You see
him?
Oh,
yeah, he's not related to you.
Unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Your mic is muted.
And he?
But he support everything that we do. Like they come to all the shows and
they are like shout me out. Some people I go to Michael's.
They you saw them though. They were there. They come to everything, man. They are the dopest. Yeah. The dope. Oh, his mic is open now.
So you're amazing, Phillip. We've seen you more than once. You're amazing.
Thank you so much. We appreciate people like you so much. I was just gonna say that before you even said that. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
And the Boricua below you, Carmen, is my wife.
Oh, cool. That's what's up. I feel for you. No,
we thought he was Latin for a minute, and then we found out later that he was not.
You know, it's funny. So today, was it today or yesterday? Darren Rivera sent me a text, and he was like, "Yo, I went back on stage yesterday, and I guess it was today." I went back on stage yesterday, and I had to channel your set from Tim and Kim's show, you know, because you inspired me. And that was so huge to me because, you know, Darren's one of the second, I think he was on the second or third show that I ever produced as Laughing Latinos Comedy. And remember, I started in December of 13, and my first Laughing Latinos Comedy show was March of 14. So I had only been doing comedy 3-4 months before I even started producing shows.
That's incredible.
So by the time I booked Darren, he was already a veteran. He's already been doing this for years. So throughout this whole 6-7 years, I've always looked up to like, you know, you, Kim, and Darren and these guys, because they've been doing it for a long time. So for someone like him to send me a text like, "Oh, I inspired you? You crazy? Like, I've been looking up to you for years, bro." So that was a huge, that text, I don't know if he knows how much that meant to me today. So shout out to Darren Rivera.
That's dope. And we want to shout him out too, because he did a very good job at the show as well. All the comedians everybody was good. Tim was good. I can't wait till we do it again. It was so fun.
And Kim, you always give yourself a hard time, and I've never seen you not kill. Never.
Oh.
But if you talk to Kim 5 minutes before the show, you would swear she doesn't know what the hell she's gonna do. You would swear that she's like she just started this yesterday. Oh, I don't know. And then she goes up there and she fucking destroys it. And you're like, "I told you."
Man, I'm a little bit of a head case, but it's okay.
It's all right. I'm used to it now. I grew up with the punches now. Like,
okay.
Shut up, Kim. Just go up there.
Usually when she don't know what to do, she just look at me and say something about me.
Oh, she tore you up. Yo, the sneakers.
Score, always a score there.
Dude.
She got that round.
Yes,
that was funny as hell.
It
was good. We'll do it again though. We're so appreciative and grateful for him.
August 22nd, JJ's Tavern.
I'll come just to be there.
August 22nd, JJ's Tavern.
All right,
okay, great.
Another show.
All right.
Well, anybody have any last words?
I think Lauren got something.
Yeah,
I've got an exciting little thing. Oh yes, well, I have reasons to wear flowers. So this Thursday, I'm interviewing a guy who's running for vice president, nominated by the Libertarian Party for vice president. His name is Spike Cohen. This is interesting to know, our votes are wasted here anyway. So it's like, wow, out of the box. So that is at 8 p.m., the Nuts and Bolts show, and I'm going to post links in the comments. Yeah, you can join on Zoom or watch Facebook Live.
Wait, did you say our votes are wasted here?
Her
Don't say that. Don't be saying that.
If one would be reasonable to think, it might be feel reasonable to think that. And if
you live in a different place, honey, you live in a different place. I'm a little scared around here.
Where are you?
This is a blue state. We're okay. Okay, everybody's
We're
all right.
okay. I'm very nervous
We're
about it.
totally fine. We're a blue state. We're fine.
So
We're
if you want some variety in your diet, that's all. Have some nuts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm freaking
You know
out. I'm
what?
so
She
unqualified.
said have
It'll be
some
great.
nuts.
You'll be fine.
You're totally fine. Yeah, you'll be
Shout
fine.
out to Rachel Van Tassel, who's gonna join me. She's a local comic.
Cool.
All right, cool.
All right, Phil, I just want to say it's always a pleasure. You know what I mean? I love your story. There's lots of elements of your story tonight that I didn't know. I always thought you was just clean cut, guy that always had his stuff together. You know what I mean? And, I guess, really don't know somebody until,
Sorry, I ruined your
you
image
let
of
them
me.
tell it. It's like
Made it even better.
a lot of our stories is parallel. I like the fact that you just told us Puff Daddy's story, how you was a backup dancer, and then you was in Father MC's video.
I got videos, yo. I got videos.
With Stevie Ray, what was his name?
Stevie B.
Stevie B. Yeah,
Because I love you.
That's the music. That was the music. Trust me, yeah.
I lived in Miami at that time. That music was on the radio.
Yeah.
You're self-made though, man, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, and we'd love that we can support you, and we love your whole shit, man. You're
I
dope.
love you guys too. You know that. I love you guys a
Oh
lot,
my
man.
God, you're amazing. And I'm so grateful you came on the show and we got to know you just a little bit better, but don't be a stranger and come back whenever you want. We're waiting for that
Absolutely.
one-man show.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I might need help putting that together, but I'll see.
Well, we'll help you. We'll help you.
All right.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you. This is the Quarantine Call-In Show with Phillip Anthony. Stay tuned for next week when we bring Talent Harris into the fray.
Ooh.
Oh, have a great week, everybody. Good night.
Right. Keep laughing.
Bye.
Any U.S. citizen returning to the United States will be subject to up to 14 days of mandatory quarantine.
We got that vaccine, third eye clean, we Visine. Dancing off the top rope, we Dougie off them high beams. Running hard like track meets, debutantes in back seats. Niacin for clear peas, my piss desperate vibes. Double parks on planet Mars, they surf the net, we surf the stars. Quarantine in Zanzibar, breathing on the masses. Paper like